Denzel, he told me, look at your hands, man. You're always like this. All these producers want to do is they're trying to open your hand and so they can put money in it. But you won't do it.
You're in Hollywood. It's a hookup culture.
I've dated them, but I never slept with anybody inside.
Ain't never slept with anybody?
Nobody
Terrence.
inside the business. A healthy male still produces about 1,500 sperm per heartbeat. So that desire to empty the storehouse is always there.
The lines you use, I love it. I'd love to empty my storehouse with you today, sweetheart. Can you imagine? How different is it raising boys versus girls?
Girls are the hardest because men have game. I watch my daughters now, and I'm scared to death because of the karma. Because I know the things that I did to women. So I have to make sure none of this stuff is around. And mind you, I didn't masturbate until I was 25 years old. I had them remove the television out of the room of the hotel because I couldn't stop. I kept watching it.
You know, this whole thing with Vitamin and PBD podcast started with a phone, me and Mario. That's it. And it grew today to, 15 million subscribers almost and 164 full-time employees. And that relationship, or you watching us and supporting us, wouldn't happen without you. But did you know 51% of you that watch the content are not subscribed to the channel? And it would mean the world to us if you could press that subscribe button and notification. Why? It allows us to grow, hire more, do bigger interviews, have a bigger team, and deliver a better product to you. So if you haven't yet, if you don't mind, press that subscribe button. It would mean the world to us. Thank you so much.
30 seconds.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close, I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever saw. It's right here.
You are a one-of-one?
My son's right about it.
I don't think I've ever said this before. We're doing this again. How you doing?
I'm really good, brother. You?
It's great. Very good. You know, it's funny. I was running. My daughter had a recital today. She had a dance. She was a tiny dancer today. So I go in, and a wife says, babe, it's only 15 minutes. I go in 8:15. And then the tiny dancer part is all the way at the end. But, oh, my God. You know, when you're there, you're kind of going like this. You're trying to get your kids to see you. And then she finally sees me. She runs up, and I'm driving down here. School is a couple minutes away from here. And I know you always talk about being a father. And it's typically, last time we did the conversation, we didn't talk about this at all. It was a complete different conversation. We had a scientist from NASA with us, which was a great combo. How important is it to you to be a father?
The hardest thing about being a dad is not being a hypocrite, not being a phony. You try and I realize I'm talking to my son about things that he's watching, but at the same time, I'm hearing that for myself about things I shouldn't be watching. I'm telling him to maintain his majestic comportment all the time, or telling both of them, rule number 5, 6, and 7, respect yourself, respect others, respect people's privacy. And then rule number 4 in our family is don't be obnoxious. But then I go to Disneyland, and I'm sitting there and I get triggered immediately because they want to grab my bags, and they're going through my bags aggressively and putting my stuff down. Rule number 4. And I get obnoxious and, and throw attitude. And I'm like, I wouldn't want my child to do that. That's not what I talk about. Yeah, they called me out about it. Not the kids didn't call me out, but the people that they almost threw us out of Disneyland. Only I didn't curse or anything like that, but I was angry.
Taking you back too.
They take the bag when you come in because someone recently got stabbed at Disneyland.
This is in LA.
This is in LA. So they're going through your bags literally like it's a serious search. And Measles is out right now. So at the time, I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, you're taking the rags that I'm going to blow my kid's nose with, and you're putting it on the same counter that you put everybody's bags. I was like, don't do that. He was like, don't give me attitude. And I was like, everybody's got attitude.
He told you, don't give me.
Yeah. And I'm like, and instead of taking a deep breath, like I do in the morning.
Did he know who you were or no? Did he recognize?
No, he didn't know.
Okay.
But instead of taking a deep breath,
yeah,
and thinking about maybe he's having a hard day, I took it personal. I got triggered. And then I'm like talking to everybody out in the world about maintaining your majestic comportment, being calm, ABC, always be cool, always be calm, always be comfortable with the consequences of your choices. And here my family almost lost the opportunity to be there because I lost my cool. So I hate being a hypocrite as a father. I hate not having the compassion to show the better side of me. So that's the hardest thing.
What are the rules? What were the
Oh,
rules?
there's 9 rules.
Okay.
Rule number 1,
Yeah.
put on your shoes, which means take care of your foundation. Make sure you're in a secure place. Rule number 2, find the shade. It's find the shade.
What does that mean?
Well, in Southern California, it's a lot of heat. So stay out of the heat. But figuratively, it means find cover. So later on, when my children are older, I'll be able to say number 2, and they'll know to find the shade. They'll know to get out of the way of danger. Number 3, stay out of the streets. And that tells itself. But number 4 is don't be obnoxious. Number 5 is respect yourself. Number 6, respect others. Number 7, respect people's privacy. Number 8, no headshots. If you're going to punch your brother, punch him in the chest, punch him in the leg.
Literally, that's one of the...
Yeah, no punching. No punching above the neck. No punching above the
no
neck.
headshots. My boys have broken that one a few times.
And number 9 is make way for life. Respect all living things. And I follow that one for the most part a lot. But, I sometimes disrespect myself. I sometimes don't respect people's privacy, so I try my hardest not to get caught up in gossip about somebody else all the time. So I'm learning. These are my own rules that if I can live by them, my children can live by them.
What was it? Because growing up, how many siblings was it? Was it you and your 2 brothers? Or?
There's 11 of us.
There's 11 of you. Okay, so I know I know a couple of the names that I looked up. So 11 total.
11.
Same mom and dad?
No, only 4 of us from the same mom and dad.
4, same mom and dad. Okay. What experiences as a kid growing up changed the way you said, I'm not going to parent like this, I'm going to be a father like this, or I'm going to be a father just like I was fathered? What experiences impacted your parenting?
Well, my father, I was incorrigible. I was indomitable as a child. So you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it just because you told me not to do it. You don't have authority over me. So I got whooped every day by my father. So I had told myself, when I have my children, I'm not going to whoop them. I'm not going to use corporal punishment on them. I'm not going to do any of that. But that's not what I ended up doing, because you start talking to them 1,000 times and they don't listen, and then immediately you go back to the slave days and you're like, well, let me go get the whip, let me go get the belt, let me do all of this other stuff you're not supposed to do. But you find yourself still back into those places, and you have to catch yourself, especially with the laws that's out here today. So now, because I got had the benefit of, doing some discipline before. Now, if I'm walking upstairs to get the belt, then they straighten themselves out, and I don't have to actually apply the belt. But it's hard. How do you raise young boys, that are indomitable, to respect authority and respect themselves? And, it's a tight balance.
How different is it, raising boys versus girls?
The girls are the hardest. The girls are the hardest because they're a little more manipulative. They're smarter. The child inside the womb, the moment that the woman's body recognizes the little girl, about 3 months of gestation, it floods it with estrogen. And so it causes these connections between the left and right hemisphere, almost 3 to 5 times the connections, from what I've read, that men have. Men have this myopic thing, see this, go and do it. But girls contemplate everything. So the girls are so much smarter naturally than the men, and they learn how to manipulate. They learn to cry, they learn the smiles, they learn all of that. And then they're gullible because they think they've mastered men by mastering manipulating daddy. and they go out and they try and do that into the world. So letting my 2 older daughters go, I watch my daughters now, and I'm scared to death because of the karma. Because I know the things that I did to women when I was growing up, stuff I wouldn't want somebody doing to my daughter. That's just the reality. We don't, like me and my wife, we talk, and she's like, I would love to make love. I would love to make love. I said, nobody's going to be sitting there talking about, you are so beautiful, singing that while they're making love. I said, it's more of an aggressive act in some way, and maybe it's the things that I've watched, but you...
Singing while making love.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to visualize. Man, you think some of these R&B guys could pull it off like Tevin Campbell or Keith Sweat or
but
something.
nobody's doing that.
That's impossible to be able to do it.
You're not.
You know what? I'm going to talk to my wife. I'm going to try it this weekend.
I try.
What a task.
I try it, but
I mean, your voice is going to crack, though. No.
Yes, figuratively, the singing, the.
Rob, what do you think? Are you thinking about it? Like, is this a challenge for you as well? Can you sing?
No, but it's not the singing. It's not the singing, but it's the, it's the foreplay, and that's something that I have to learn to do. The foreplay is the love making,
right?
But then when you get to the penetration, that's a different kind of act. That's that's a testosterone.
That's intentional,
that's
intense.
Yeah, there's no Keith Sweat playing in the back of your head. There's none of that. There's
no music.
Joe Cochran.
Nothing.
The dun rubbing the head. So it's that balance. Men have this expectation because I watched a bunch of porn growing up. So I had an unnatural expectation of what should have taken place inside of lovemaking. So I've had to learn, or trying to learn, how to make love in an honest way, in a loving way.
Honest way.
In a loving way, not in some...
So you openly talk about that with your girls?
I had to. I had to talk to my girls about, do you know how many women I've had encounters with that if I bumped into them today, I wouldn't know their name. I wouldn't know their face. I was like, do you want to be like that for somebody? Because men have game, and I hope that that's enough. But karma doesn't allow that. My daughters probably end up having to deal with the same thing that I did to women, So the karma.
Does that scare you?
Yes, it does. But it actually sobers you,
Wow. And the other day we went to one of our friends' his daughter, which is kind of like my niece, we're together all the time. She's got a first boyfriend. So she's in college. He flies in with her, and they bring her over to our house, and we're having dinner, and we're playing a game, and I'm watching him. And I'm like, this guy is nice, because the dad is a little bit of a brilliant guy, very technical. He has a side to him that he could be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And he was too soft, like he can be pushed around. Do you sit there and think about, daughters typically date their fathers, date a man like their fathers? Is that what scares you? Like they can date you?
Yes. And I know how manipulative I was. My uncles were pimps. So I had a different understanding of how you dealt with women. That was the pimp that I played in Hustle and Flow.
Too natural.
Too natural. You have to learn not to. I've got this rule, like when Satan asked Jesus to turn stone into bread to feed himself. I took from that, you do not turn stone into bread to feed yourself. You don't take a gift that's been given to you, for selfish purposes. So if I had the proverbial gift of gab, it wasn't to be used to talk somebody into a threesome, something I wouldn't want somebody talking my daughters into. Mm-hmm. But I've done that, in the growing up stages. And that is something that it hits you. It constantly comes back. And that's the hardship of raising daughters over raising sons, But nowadays you have to worry about, sons being overly aggressive and getting killed, because the men in my family are very aggressive, in dealing with authority. So girls scare me, though, the most.
How is it for you when you're with your wife and you're out on, maybe this has happened, maybe it hasn't happened, where a woman approaches you and it's from back in the days of relationship. Has that ever happened to you?
We've only bumped into one girl that I've dated from the past.
That means you don't get out much.
No, we don't.
Okay.
I don't go
You
out.
don't risk it.
And the girls I dated, I never dated anybody in the business.
Really?
No.
'Cause that's
I mean,
more
I've gone, yes. I've dated them, but I never slept with anybody inside.
Ain't never slept with anybody?
Nobody
Terrence.
inside the business.
Never.
No, nobody. I dated Naomi
Wow.
Campbell. I've gone out with, I'm not even going to run the list, but I've gone out with a lot of girls. I've slept in the same bed with them, but I would not, I don't know why I wouldn't attack them. I wouldn't do that. That
That
was,
is, so you're in the business. You're in Hollywood. It's a business where you see everybody is, for the most part, you'd see they hook up. It's a hookup culture. It's you're shooting a movie. You're gone for 30 days. I think it was Burt Reynolds. Who was it that wrote a book? Jolene. Who's the singer of Jolene? What's her name? Dolly Parton writes, I think, in a book. She says, we're doing a movie. You could fact check this, but I read this either in her book or somewhere. Her and Burt Reynolds are doing a movie, and they had never been together before. And she just says, listen, let's get it knocked out of the way so we don't even think about it. And then boom, they go handle their business, and then they do the movie. Could have been her or him or somebody else. But for you to say nobody ever, it's not like you didn't have the chances. You're a good-looking guy.
I dated a lot of girls. I dated a lot of them. But at the time, still, I was battling between being a Jehovah's Witness or trying to study as a Jehovah's Witness. But there's a feeling of what is your prey. You know who has that interaction with you, and the girls are beautiful.
No fantasy of wanting to be a Hollywood couple, like what if her and you never thought about it that way?
Nah, that was never on the table for me.
You see Jay-Z with Beyonce. You see these couples where it's like,
I had a chance to date Beyonce, early on, and we had a conversation, and I ended up talking to the other girl inside of, Destiny, the girl with the blue eyes. And I remember Beyonce looking over at me, and I think that's why she picked me to do that dance when she did the kind of striptease dance that we did at the BETs or whatever, to show me what I had lost. But I was attracted. There was a moment in which I felt something there. But,
with Beyonce.
Yeah, but that was long before she was with Jay-Z. That was very, very long ago.
I mean, they were big back then when they were coming up. They were very big when they were coming up.
Destiny's Child.
Destiny's Child, yeah.
That's what it was.
Beyonce, yes. I'm actually very surprised that that's not something you ever did. So it was always girls. So how did you protect yourself? As a guy that's in movies, you're famous, you're a celebrity, girls are throwing themselves at you. How do you protect yourself from not getting in trouble the way a lot of the other guys got in trouble?
Well, you don't crap where you eat at the same time. I knew that all of those things come back, and the people inside the business, how many of them were hooking up. I didn't want to get involved with that. I didn't want somebody touching.
Was a girl ever surprised when you said no to her?
Yeah, a few girls was like, one girl was like, don't you want to know what it's like to be inside of me? And I said, I'm already inside of you. We're already communicating, I'm already there with you. But it wasn't we didn't have that passion. The passion wasn't there. When I met my wife, the entire world came together, and, I understood eternity from meeting her. I didn't feel that with the other women, So I had girls that I would hang out with. Everybody have when you're growing up, you got some. And today I sit back and I think that's somebody's mother now. That's somebody's grandmother now. And the stuff I was asking them to do. I mean, that's the regret. That's the regret. You just, but you deal with it.
Yeah, does it at all bother you when he talks about this stuff, or no? Not at all. I'm amazed by that. Okay. Today, they hit on him with you there. How do you react to it? How do you handle it?
I mean, I handle it with grace and a smile,
I'm
like when
flattered.
guys try and talk to her.
I mean, you have a beautiful wife, so it's not like, both of you guys are.
And we're not even married. We got divorced 12 years ago.
You told me last time,
Yeah.
but it's pretty much. But you
This
guys
is
are
my
together,
one. This is my one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my one.
so it's not the main squeeze; it is the only squeeze.
It's the only squeeze.
Okay, that's
It's
good.
the only squeeze because we're starting to look like each other. You know, she's actually become more me.
That is so funny.
You see couples,
Yeah.
you see people with their dogs.
Yeah.
That's
The
the law of
dogs for
reflection.
sure. Yeah.
You look like the person that you are with. You behave like the person
Yeah.
you're with.
Yeah.
So she's changed me a lot. But, guys come up and try and flirt with her at other times, and she's so kind about it. She's like, wow, you're handsome, but not in this lifetime. Maybe the next one. Maybe the next
She'll say that.
Yeah, maybe the next one.
Not in this lifetime, maybe in the next one.
Yeah, and it's a nice way of, being flattered and also being let down gently. Yeah.
So, marriage and parenting, both questions. When I'm building my national business, I was building an insurance agency, so I was on the road 6 months out of the year, going to all those other places. You're on the road all the time. When you do movies, I'm assuming, I don't know the life, I'm assuming you're on the road making movies,
Yeah.
How do you manage that and parent and relationship, marriage? How do you manage those? It's got to be super difficult.
Well, the hardest thing is when you take your family on the road with you, you're not able to completely commit to the character. You're trying to, but you come home and then you have to be husband, you have to be father, you have to be all of those things. But when you don't have your family there, you're kind of open to the wind. Everybody wants to hang out with you. So I've had to, my wife, she'll let me go to the job the first few days by myself so I can lock in, maybe a week. But then after that, she comes. But she gives me a lot of space, and sometimes she'll give me a separate place, because they'll provide a house for me, for the family. They'll provide housing for me, but then she will get a separate place where the kids are, and sometimes will let me be over there if I've got to go and do the work I need to do. But that's the only way I found that after 2 weeks apart, we change our chemistry, where we used to be like, oh, yeah, I'm so in love. I'm so locked in. I'm so everything. But as males, we still produce, a healthy male still produce about 1,500 sperm per heartbeat. So that desire that need to share and empty the storehouse is always there. And after 2 weeks, that can become a problem.
The lines you use, I love it. Listen, I'd love to empty my storehouse with you today, sweetheart. Can you imagine?
I have a delivery to make.
Yeah. So how do you manage? It is a real thing. I mean, if you're a man, it's a real thing. My guys would ask me, Pat, how do you manage to, when you have to empty the storehouse? How did you do it?
You can either take the route of self-abuse where you end up despising yourself afterwards, or you can, all right, I got to go work out, or I need my wife to be here. So you go home. I'm quick to fly back home. But most of the time, my one stays with me, and it's not like we get to play every day. You get older and if it happens once a week, but now we spend so much more time communicating. Just touching her leg on my leg at night is what will help me go to sleep, maybe at 57, this is just what happens, but it's a good thing now.
How do you deal with your mortality? Does it mess with you? Or are you accepting it? Are you cool? We just saw recently, is it James Van Der Beek that we lost from Dawson's Creek? And he made a video about getting closer to God. I'm sure you saw Eric Dane, Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
And I saw a video of Robert Duvall back in the days of him doing an interview about Godfather and Marlon Brando and how opinionated he was about the role. But how do you deal with your mortality?
I recognize that there's no such thing as death because the energy, the wave crests up and then it drops into a trough and then it reforms up again. But even when it drops in a trough, it's still there. But it's just an unseen part of it. There's no real death. Everything that comes from us ends up still feeding the next thing, and all living things feed off of living things. So it's a transitional process. And like when I met my wife, it felt like her and I had been looking for her for 1,000 lifetimes and didn't know that I had been looking for her. I felt eternity at that moment. And knowing that, okay, yeah, this is starting to crack. The seams are starting to be seen in this. It means in a minute I get to relax again. I get to go back to sleep. And then when I'm reborn, and you know my philosophy is everything goes from positive to negative, breathing in and breathing out. So the next lifetime, I believe you end up as a male. You know, the older we get, what happens? Our testosterone drops, our estrogen levels rise, our prostate, which has the same fibers or tissue that the uterus has, it begins to swell. And like women that typically go through their period and all of that, our bodies, when we lose our testosterone, is slowly becoming more effeminate. Naturally, you know, we get older, we got to try not to grow boobs as men, you know, we get softer and all that. So I think in the next lifetime, you don't breathe in twice without breathing out once, so you go from masculine to feminine.
So you think next lifetime you're going to be a woman?
You have to go into the feminine side.
You really believe that?
Oh, my goodness. That's the only way there would be equanimity. Otherwise, you know, you can't breathe in twice or 3 times without breathing out once. It has to be the ebb and flow. The cloud moves forward a little bit, then the cloud takes a step back, and then it pushes 2 forward, and then it takes a step back. So that equanimity, I think, allows for karma to take place, because what we've done in this lifetime as males will be done to us in the next lifetime as females. And sooner or later, you learn how to be extra medium and stay right in the center and not do too much.
You really believe this?
Honestly.
When did you come to this conclusion?
Maybe about 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Just looking.
What prompted it?
Just looking at the conversion of electricity into magnetism. Electricity does the same thing. It's always seeking that higher pressure condition. And when it gets to the very center, like it comes in through the North Pole and through the South Pole, and when it gets to the center of the Earth and has no place left to go, and it keeps still trying to spin right, and there's no room for it, so it's forced to spin to the left. And it comes out as radiation, as magnetism at the equator. That's just the natural process. And if elements do the same thing, they start off lithium as a +1 and you get into the next octave. At the very end of it, it's made as fluorine on this side, you know, +1 and a -1. And you go into the next octave, the fluorine, which was the mate for lithium. Now in the next octave, that fluorine becomes sodium. It goes masculine. And then that sodium bonds with chlorine, and in the next octave, the chlorine becomes potassium. So it's going from male to female. And if as above, so below, you know, and if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. Find the common factor and multiply and divide. So if we're made up of all these elements, these chemicals that's doing these things, and consciousness comes as a result of these interactions, then the entire universe must take this same walk. If one is doing it, the one thing that everything is based on, if this is how the foundation moves, I'm sorry, the boat is going to move according to how the seas move. And that's all we are, boats or waves on this thing of the universe popping up. We still have to follow that path.
Was this prompted 10 years ago by you having man boobs and you said, maybe this is what's happening? I mean, is that kind of like, hey, I used to have muscles up here. I used to be able to flex.
No, I think it started with a friend of mine was having prostate issues.
How old was he?
He was only 60, and he was having serious prostate issues. And I began studying what the prostate is like and, you know, trying to find a solution for him. And that's when I realized that the testes ultimately pull up and become ovaries, and the prostate becomes the uterus. And in the feminine side, the uterus drops down and becomes the prostate. The ovaries drop down and they become testicles. The clitoris becomes the penis. All of that stuff, it's just an in and out process. The universe is very simple. It's not complicated. Now we can throw all these other things, like you throw religion in there, and it tells you that you're going to die and then you're going to float up into the heavens. But when have we seen that happen? How does that fit with the sustainability of our ecology, of our environment, of our universal flow? There's always a back and forth. How is it that a male God had a male son without a feminine counterpart of as above, so below? Those are the things we follow, these myths or religious understandings that we've been taught without questioning them. Without question. If somebody said, oh, I had a dream today and an angel showed up and told me to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da, most people would look at them like they were insane. But most of our faith is based off of someone that had an interaction like that. But it was told to us by someone with authority, our mother, our father, and it was told to them by someone with authority. And we give that authority, and wherever they got that information, whether it's from the Hebrew Bible, whether it's from the Quran, whether it's from, the ancient texts of the Veda, we believe it based upon the authority that someone else has put in it. But many things we haven't questioned for ourselves.
You used to be a Jehovah's Witness.
Yes, I used to study with Jehovah's Witness. I never got baptized.
Oh, you never did?
No, I never got baptized, but I studied for 25 years.
For 25 years. Would you have considered yourself a Jehovah's Witness?
Yes, I considered myself, just I hadn't made it to the point of being completely dedicated and getting baptized.
What prevented you?
I asked a question one day. I have to drink some water for this. According to the Bible, it never rained on this planet until the year 2348 BCE, 4,370 years ago, or 4,730 years ago, I think. Adam was created in the year, depending on how you take it. The Masoretic text says that he was created in the year 4004 BCE. Other people have it at 4024 BCE. And if you look up and if you can Google or hit chat, the idea that it never raining on this planet in the 4.6 billion years that the standard model says, that hit me kind of strangely. And I began asking questions about that. Is it possible for there never to have been rain on this planet until the year 2348 BCE? They couldn't give me an answer for it. So I started doing research, and I looked into glaciations and ice cores, and the deeper you look into the ice cores, you can go back almost 1.2 million years, and you see the same recursive things that's taking place. And in order to have glaciers in those places means you have precipitation. In order to have precipitation, you have a hydrologic system that is functioning. And snow begins as rain initially, and it freezes. So that question right there made me stop. If you look at and mind you, I it's not that I don't believe in God, but what we've been taught is not lining up with archaeological truth, archaeological facts. If you look at the tree rings, they don't support the idea of a global flood. It supports the idea of perhaps a regional flood in a given area. But to support a global flood, all of those tree rings, for water to be on the earth for 150 days and everything's crushed underneath it, all the trees would die. So you would see a new growth pattern, but we still see tree rings that goes back 12,000 years. So there was a flood. There's a number of reports for a regional flood, but as far as it being a global flood, that doesn't match according to archaeological facts, according to the glacial facts. So I had to start questioning those things. And remember, we were told that the Bible is the Word of God. And man wrote it, but it was under inspiration. And I was like, well, if I look at 4004 BCE as the starting point for man being here, well, that doesn't match the genealogical records of everyone coming up out of Africa and making their movement through Gobekli Temple. All of these places, they 13,000 years old. Other places showing that mankind has been here at least 300,000 years or at least 1,000,000 years. So that was a hard thing for me because I felt like I was losing my religion. But at the same time, I was gaining my common sense that when they began writing about trying to understand what was taking place, they used the best tools that they had available at the time. But those tools, now we have more sensitive instruments. And so we should be using those sensitive instruments and using our common sense and take the stories that we can from these things, but not to, we have to walk away from fairy tales at the end of the day and hold on to truth and hold on to the God. When we pray, who do we pray to? Do we pray out there, or are we praying to a deeper place inside, the connectivity to the Creator? And the thought that I had to go through an interceder, like I'm a father. There's nothing that any of my sons could do or my daughters could do that they would have to go through somebody else in order, one of my other children, to talk to me. There's no way, and I'm not even a perfect father. I'm a loving father and a just father, but there's nothing that my son could do that would make me throw him into a fire and burn him for eternity for something he did for 30 or 40 years or even 80 years. The equanimity, it doesn't balance out. The reciprocity, it doesn't balance out. And I'm thinking God is love, so how can you do that to, but that's what some of the scriptures are talking about, or that's what some of the faith believes in. That Jehovah's Witnesses believe that, no, you just die and you're wiped out forever, and that's a loving thing. But they were never able to explain or help me to reconcile the dates of Bible chronology based upon archaeological truth.
What did your father believe in?
My father was a Muslim.
He was a Muslim.
My father was a Muslim.
How about your mother?
My mother was a Baptist.
And was he a practicing Muslim?
Yeah, he's a practicing
He was.
Muslim. Mm-hmm.
So
He became a Muslim when he went to prison. So
did you ever become a Muslim yourself?
Yes, my name was Suleiman. Practiced a lot, did all of that.
For how long?
Up until I was 13.
Up until 13, you're Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did you walk away from it?
I've talked about this before, but there was a day I came home and all of the brothers from the masjid was over at the house, and there was this brother, Yaqub, very kind, loved his scent, loved his nature, but apparently he had castrated a wino, a homeless person, for urinating on the masjid.
He castrated him?
Castrated him.
And he's sharing the story with you?
No, everybody's around. Like 13 of the brothers from the mosque are there because Yaqub has been arrested, and they're talking about that. And they were sitting. The conversation was, well, he shouldn't have, he shouldn't have
Castrated.
Well, he shouldn't have. What is the term? I can't desecrate. That was it. He shouldn't have desecrated the Holy Temple by urinating on the mosque. That was what they were talking about. They weren't talking about the fact that this young man or older gentleman was also a child of God that may have been lost. And I was like, that, it was so severe.
You're overhearing this conversation?
Yes.
Or you're in
I'm
the
sitting,
conversation?
no, I'm in the stairs and they're in the living room.
So you're not part of the conversation
No.
the 13 men are having?
I'm just listening.
Got it.
And it could have been 12, but it felt like, all the seats were taken up. And so at that moment, I started questioning Islam in that regard, because the God of love, I couldn't see that happening. So then I started exploring, Methodist, explored Catholicism. And then by the time I'm like 17, I bump into witnesses and they tell me about the truth about Christmas, the truth about Easter, the truth about all of these things. And I believe it because it is the truth. But when it came to, they tell you stay away from astrology. And I'm like, why do you stay away from astrology? But I listened. And then when I did my research, astrology came from astronomy. All of our religion, the 12 constellations that the sun goes through, became the 12 disciples. The sun dying on the 21st of December, and being dead for 3 days. And then on the 25th, it rises again and becomes that Southern Cross. I was like, wow, they wanted me to stay away from astrology because it was the basis of most religions. And so that was a red flag for me.
Interesting.
It was a huge red flag for me.
Well, let me ask you, to me, there's a couple ways with this, right? One of them is the actual debate, which is the, theological debate you can have on faith. And that can go for hours, right? Christianity, Muslim, Jewish, Seventh-day Adventist, Mormon. We can go that route. That's one side. From your experience, you've traveled all over the world. You've been all over the place. You've been around everybody. Who do you think produces the best societies and produces the best, safest results?
Well, the Buddhists, for the most part, because they don't really put anything into a higher being. The Buddhists are more so the interconnectedness of the universe, the entanglement, and doing things based on karma, but without the idea that you want to gain something in return from it. That's more of a living way, instead of a worshiping way. A lot of our worship now has become something perfunctory, and it's transactional. If I do good, then I can ask God to help me, and people do things hoping they're going to get something in exchange, instead of balancing and doing good just from the sake of doing good, because it's the right thing to do. That's what rule number 9 is: make way for life. You got to take. You're going to have to take in this world, but take responsibly and give as much as you take. If you're going to eat a piece of fruit, the Buddhist way, the human living way, be appreciative that you got the flesh of the fruit, but why not go and plant the seed? Why do we throw the seed in the trash? The embryo. Why do we throw the plant's embryo into the trash? Since it's sustained us, why don't we go and plant that somewhere? And maybe when our children or one of our seedlings is out there in the world and somebody uses it, they'll also place it in a good place. So it's for the karma of it. But I don't follow, any religion anymore.
Today, nothing.
No religion, but I pray constantly.
Who do you pray to? How does it start?
The universe, because I believe the entire universe is God.
You say, Dear Heavenly Father, or what do you say?
I have a name.
You have a name. Got it.
I have a name.
But it's not Dear Heavenly Father. You have a
No, it's because it can't just be Heavenly Father. It can't just be just a man up there, a male figure. It has to be both a masculine and a feminine side of the deities in order for there to be balance with it. But there's an energy, and the masculine has always been the electric. The feminine has always been the magnetic, the discharging, the expansive. And so when I balance with that, and I see everything is God. There's no part that's not made from the Creator. It wasn't just man that was made in the likeness of God, because when you look at how everything is born, how it's raised, how it gestates inside of the body. It still takes the same curl. It still unwinds the same way. The same thing in hemoglobin, same thing in chlorophyll, same thing in the blood of the cephalopods. Just one or two trace elements is changed in the center of it, the nucleus. So there is nothing that's not made from the Creator. And so instead of God living, where in a universe is God? Is he, near Alpha Centauri somewhere, or is he outside of the universe? No, I believe the universe collectively is God. Therefore, all of us are part of the Creator. I'm as small as, when I want to be small, I think about Terrence Howard. But when I want to be large, I think about Terrence Howard in the universe. And Terrence Howard disappears, and then now I'm a part of everything.
Have you ever read Conversation with God? The book?
Yes.
What do you think about it?
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved
was
that.
Was it recent or was it?
That was 20 years ago.
Okay.
That was 20 years
I'm just wondering, because you'll hear words being used and it's, the universe. I'm like, okay, so that's sometimes folks who read the book Conversation with God, they would speak the language that way. And then some people had a bad experience with a person who was a member of a church, and then there's a falling out. For me, I was an atheist 25 years. I had nothing but bad experiences, and I was like, I'm not even dealing with it. And then I met with a man whose name was Mano, and he said the most powerful thing to me. He says, if you judge God horizontally, you'll always be disappointed, because people will let you down. They will, but if you judge it vertically, that's where the relationship begins, because it's you and him. And that's the element of faith, because for somebody like you, would you consider yourself a very analytical guy? I think you're very analytical.
I'm analytical. I examine things, but I'm very emotional at the same time.
You wouldn't be in the business you're in if you weren't. Mm-hmm. So it's a good balance of both, right? Right brain and left brain. How do you manage faith? How do you deal with faith?
Well, like you said, with conversations with God, I believe every conversation is with God because everything is divine. Mm-hmm. And so when I deal with people, a gentleman told me once, he said, in every person you meet, there's this little piece of God in them. That's who you talk to. And then I added to that, but make sure they see it in you first. And so that's how I deal with faith. I approach everyone as if I'm talking to the Creator. And I wish I had talked to that gentleman at Disneyland. Like, okay, wait a minute, this is God right here, instead of this insignificant worm that's stopping me.
He's going to connect you. He's going to be like, Terrence, I'm so sorry, because Terrence Howard is on Connect. If you got any questions, you can always connect them here. We're going to put the QR code below. But you ever heard of Hafiz, the poet Hafiz?
No.
He's a Persian poet. I'm trying to find this thing because of what you said. I read this many years ago, and he said something about, man, I got to find this because I think you would love it. He says, okay, God is speaking through everything, through the wind, through the flute, through your own breath. So sometimes it kind of goes to, and if you go a little bit deeper in it, he says sometimes God speaks through you. He uses human beings as a way to communicate to you. That's, and by the way, Hafiz is like Rumi. I'm sure you've heard of Rumi. If you know Rumi in Iran, many times they'll talk about Hafiz as well. So faith for you is in conversations with, okay, so let me ask you this. Being in Hollywood, you've acted with a lot of different, guys in the business. You've done movies with some of the best. And, we talked about one time which movie you were in, which was my favorite, the one with Channing Tatum. What is the name? Fighting? Oh, my God. The way you played in that movie. I watched it multiple times because of how we talked about it last time. What did anyone in the business tell you about faith? Are there a lot of people that believe in God? Is it more those who don't? Is it more? Because, I'm curious, like, you're on the set. Okay, guys, we got a 3-hour break. You're sitting there with somebody that you're doing a movie with. What are some of the most profound things any colleague told you about relationship with God and faith?
Well, most of them have lost their faith. They talk about God because it's a good talking point, I like to thank God for all of these things, but they never identify, everybody, a God is anything that you worship. Some people's God is money because they do anything for it. They'll sacrifice themselves. They'll sacrifice their children. Some people's God is lust. and they're willing to sacrifice all of that. A God is something that you will trade everything for, or you turn to, when you're doing nothing else. So most conversations on set, are as shallow as you can imagine, because these actors, they're scared. They're scared. We come into the business because, not that we want to perform, but we're hoping to be validated. We're hoping that, so the kids that tease me in school will know that he's an important person. He's somebody worth listening to. So when you're on set, most of them has had to trade in a lot of their beliefs and the things they hold precious to themselves, because they're to get into that place, to get into that business, that it makes them not want to talk about faith because they feel short in themselves. But they don't realize that all you got to do to wash yourself is truly just to wash yourself. Every day you go to sleep, it's like death. You're dying. You die according to your sins, and next morning you're able to wake up with a fresh hit. Now you can go and be a grave digger and go dig up the bones from yesterday and follow it. So the conversations I have with people is mostly about, you got to remember that God renews. I am what I shall become.
Who was the best example of somebody you watched? Like what you said was mind-boggling. You never slept with anybody in the business, never. You said you laid in bed with them, and one of them asked you, don't you want to know what it feels like to be inside of me? And you said, I already am, right? By the way, when you said inside of me, you know where it took me, Rob? You know that movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall where he's singing inside of you? Do you know which one I'm talking? He's hilarious. Inside of me. He's singing. He is so funny. But was there anybody where you're like, man, what a devout, disciplined, a man of faith or a woman of faith to be in Hollywood? Was there any one example where you were blown away by?
No, because most of the girls have had to trade so much to get there. They know that that's part of the transaction.
100% of them?
Yeah, like the interesting thing was Nia Long once. Not that we dated or anything, but we were doing this movie Butter. I mean, Nia, I give her a lot of credit because she's probably responsible for me being the actor I am today. Because Nia would constantly go, and anytime she was on a project, she'd be like, you need to bring Terrence here. Who's Terrence? Oh, he's dope, da-da-da-da. Well, one day we're on the set and we're flirting, and we talked about, okay, let's hang out afterwards. And so I get in my car and I'm like, okay, so, where do you want to meet up at? And she's like, if you think I'm going to let you come home and have your way with me, you got something else coming.
She said that.
Yeah, but she said it in a good way because there was an attraction there. But she was like, and we've been great friends for 20-something years since then. Another girl, she's not an actress.
And Nia Long is a dime.
She's
gorgeous, yeah.
She's a whole dollar.
Yeah.
She is a whole dollar. She was, but at the integrity, the foresight that she showed, because afterwards we knew it wouldn't have been a forever relationship.
That didn't make you want to pursue it even more?
No, it made me like, I dig her. I dig her for seeing the truth of it. Yeah, she spoke the truth. She spoke the truth.
Was she with somebody at that time? Or
no,
both of you guys were single?
We were both single.
And is she married to? I don't know if
she's married. She was married. I think she got divorced recently. But
wow, interesting. Okay,
but that one got me.
Who else? You were going to say somebody else.
I'm not. I don't know.
Okay, so with Nia Long, to me, Nia was. Oh wait, she was with that coach?
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, she ended up marrying him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And he had some controversy tied to him. He was...
Yeah, I mean, you got all the girls there around you. I don't know what happened, but something happened. But just the fact that she had the integrity and the foresight to say, no, this isn't going to go where, she was really looking for love at the same time. One of my best friends, or someone that used to be my best friend, girl named Stephanie Baklaan, who we met to date But then we got in the car, we smoked a joint, and sat there in front of the parking lot and ready to go somewhere. And we realized we were going to be buddies for life. And so I ended up sleeping on her couch for 6 months when I didn't have work or anything like that. And that's where John Singleton came and met me. And I ended up getting Hustle and Flow. You know, she was a really good person, but that came as a result of us having an attraction, but recognizing that the attraction, just because you're drawn to somebody doesn't mean it has to culminate in sexuality. You know, and sometimes we go to that base. Oh, wow, yes, Nicole Ari Parker.
What happened there?
We were doing a movie together, and we kind of felt like, oh, you know what? We're playing boyfriend and girlfriend, and there was a bit of an attraction. And we're sitting there laying in bed, clothes on, but watching TV. This is long before she met Boris or anything like that. And we looked at each other like, what are we about to do? And we laughed, and we've been super close ever since, you know. Marvin Gaye's daughter.
Nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing happened.
Listen, some people are watching this saying you're a saint. I mean, this is
No, not a saint.
So you believe in men and women can be friends without having sexual attraction? And
Well, you have the attraction, but you just don't act on it. And if you feel something, like if I feel like I have a great attraction towards somebody, I was doing a movie with this girl, Nikki. I forgot, what's Nikki's last name? Weird.
Nicole was in Boogie Nights?
Yeah, she's in
Nicole
Boogie
in
Nights.
Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
Who was she in Boogie Nights? She wanted to be a Boogie Nights. Oh, I didn't know she was in Boogie Nights. And by the way, just so the audience knows, your wife is given these names.
Because we've talked about it.
I'm sure.
We've talked about it.
It's cool.
I dated Marvin Gaye's daughter for a bit, and we never slept together or anything like that. But, you know, I'm more of a, you know, I want to get to know who you truly, truly, truly are. And then you try and take your walk to see where, there's Nona. There's Nona. And they respected her because
Nothing happened. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm trying to think, have I ever laid in bed with a girl when I was single watching a movie? Science was, listen, you have, what was the phrase, Rob, he shared earlier? The 1,200
Emptying your storehouse?
Emptying the storehouse. Wow. So emptying the storehouse, you're able to control protecting that storehouse in these moments.
I just knew that it wouldn't turn out the way I wanted it.
How did you know that, though?
Because you know your prey. You know what they'll taste like. You know what it'll feel like. You know when you have a perfect connection with somebody. You know that.
How can you tell that?
Pheromones. Your whole body responds to them. It's no longer a head game. It's, you know, it's a soul game. And if you wait for that, then every interaction you have, like all of these girls, you know, that, like when they started talking about me and domestic violence, and I'm like, all the people that know me have to know that that's not who I am, you know, and whether they accepted it or didn't, it didn't matter. But I was like, but the girls that know me out there, when they called me, said I was a slut or, you know, a womanizer and all that, and I'm like, no, you're associating me with the characters that they've made me play. And that's been the hardest thing, is showing that there's a differentiation. Just because you make me play security guard doesn't mean I'm a security guard. You know, I may be a gardener at home. I may be all of these things. Just because I'm a bank president doesn't mean that I'm, you know, that I'm fiscally or financially mature or any of those things. This is just what I do throughout this day.
So hard, though, on this side. Because on this side, like, we're watching Game of Thrones, and I swear to God, if I see the actor Joffrey anywhere, I'm going to be like, this guy, like, you literally watch it. You're like, what a piece of, you know, you watch The Mom, you know, you watch some movies.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones messed me up, you know, and I think it messed up a lot of the world because it got everybody into incest porn, you know, because people started watching it. And how many people turned off the TV when Jamie and Cersei's hooked up? Or how many people got quiet and watched it? That was the incest that was pushed inside of Game of Thrones and the House of Dragons. It's almost being normalized in a sense. But I bet you incest porn went up from what? From Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. It's presented for 7-8 years in front of you. Now it's normal.
I got a Menec the other day, and he sends me a Menec first, and then I'm like, hey, he says, hey, you got to talk about porn on Grok. I said, yeah, we'll talk about it. He says, no, I don't think you understand. This is serious. You have to talk about the challenges of porn on Grok. I said, we will. And he keeps Menecting back, and this is like 6 or 7 Menecs later. And then he finally says, listen, let me tell you why you have to talk about it. I'm addicted to it. I don't know how to let it go. I said, what do you mean? He says, Grok porn allows you to pick and choose whatever fantasy you want. And it says you can ask for a 19-year-old girl doing this to this person in this position and that position and this. And I think it's horrible. I'm addicted. I can't let go of it. I don't know what to do. And he's sending me a message like this, right? So, I was in the military. We had a guy in the corner. He was a sergeant. You'd go to his office. He was the most famous sergeant at our unit. You want to know why? He had 2,000 cassettes of any porn you wanted. So Friday night, Saturday night, I'm coming back from the gym. All I'm hearing is, you're hearing the sound in the corner. And he's blasting it. So all these 18-year-olds are coming to his room to watch it. And he's 32 years old, E5. Let me tell you what I've collected over the years. He was a legend, right? And it's to himself, I have the best stuff back. Nowadays, right here.
It's right there.
And then think what AI is going to do on whatever crazy situation you want. What impact does that have when a boy watches it or a man watches it?
When I was a kid, in order to see porn, you can get the magazines or you'll be at a wealthy friend's house and they had some videos. But it was a rare opportunity to see it. The proliferation of it today, I don't know how you avoid it. Like for me, I still have to be careful. I try and make sure that my phone, my computer, and all of that is inside of the casita and not near my bed if I'm away from my family, because you still have the desire to go back and to watch it. And I was, who was I talking to? What is his name, honey? God, and I love him. I'm having a senior moment. He played Hop. He was the voice in Hop. Yes, the voice in Hop. Not him, but the actual voice.
Russell Brand?
Russell Brand. Okay. I was talking to Russell Brand, and I remember saying to him, I still watch porn periodically.
He's saying that, or yours?
I said that to him, and he was like, what? He was like, you really should research that. You really should research what's taking place with that. And when I did the research and considered, would I want my child in that position? When I put it back to that, when I put it back to it, then you're like, you take a moment, if you can catch yourself. But if once you start going, once you've gotten on that train, it's over. Once you've turned on a computer, it's over. So for a man, it's a lot of self-control. So I have to make sure none of this stuff is around. And mind you, I didn't masturbate until I was 25 years old, only because my father was so staunch about manhood, and I'm like sitting there thinking, this is a man's hand touching my penis. That's homosexual. If I'm getting off rubbing.
Your dad told you if you masturbate, it's a man's hand touching.
Yeah, and so for me, I didn't masturbate for the first time until I was 25 years old. And I wish that I had maintained that.
Like for a second, you went back to the first time you went there.
Yeah, I was in Czech Republic. I was in Prague.
You remember it?
Yeah, I was inside the hotel, and I had watched porn before, but I just would watch it. And this was the first time that I actually went there. And then I had them remove the television out of the room of the hotel. I was shooting Hearts War because I couldn't stop. I kept watching it. And I was like, oh, wow. So pushing the easy button,
Czech
and,
Republic.
and you get
Shout out to Czech.
you get caught into it. So even at 57 years old, I have to be careful and to check myself. So that rule number 5, respect yourself. Respect yourself. You know, and I sit there and think about, you know, would Maximus, you know, be sitting off in a cell doing that, you know, from Gladiator. I'm like, because I loved who he was, and I put that into my head. I try to.
Is that really what you would do?
Yeah, I'd sit there and think about.
Would Maximus masturbate in jail?
Would Maximus
Gladiator?
would the people that I look up to, you know, did Socrates,
Wow.
was Socrates involved in that? And if there are, you know, I know that I don't necessarily believe about angels and things of that nature, but I know that there's other dimensional beings because there's other temporal dimensions. You know, things are moving at a different rate, a different pace, and based upon the individual that came and shared all that knowledge with me about the science, I'm like, okay, are they looking at me like I look at my dog when he's licking himself? You know, is that who I am? And if I could, would I do what my dog is doing? You know, so I compare it like that, and it helps to pull me back.
How promiscuous were you at your peak?
Oh, at my peak, I was dating about 4 or 5 girls, you know, that I would go and hang out with, you know.
Was it interchanging or same?
It was, I would meet new girls. We would meet new girls all the time.
I asked the question because did you ever go on a run where for like a 5-year period, 10-year period, it was just...
I explored my dark side. I explored my dark side. I did the Carl Jung thing. I explored and embraced my shadow, you know, and then you realize you have to get to your lowest point. And that lowest point was sitting there watching porn, you know, and starting to use my gift of gab to talk girls into doing those things.
At what age did you realize you had that? How early?
Well,
that
didn't
got
start.
Famous, or that was?
It was about in my 30s.
On your 30s.
In my 30s.
What was the first time you had a sexual encounter with a girl?
Oh, I was 4. That was different. I was 4. It was the older girls that were watching me, you know, and they were like 6 and 7, and so that changed.
Did you say 4 years old?
4 years old.
With 6 and 7-year-old girls.
Yeah. And we did that every day until I was like 13. You know, had more sex then than I've had in my adult life. So my expectation for interaction was always those things.
I'm still confused. You said 4 years old?
4 years old.
And they were 6 or 7?
6 and 7.
Were they Muslims?
No. This is
because I'm thinking your father with...
Yeah, my father wouldn't have known, but when you're not supervised.
And you guys are just fooling around at...
We're just fooling. We played hide and go get, pants up, pants down. That was my experience, and I'm like, I look at my sons 8 and 9 now, no 9 and 10 now, and I can't imagine them getting involved in that, you know. But I lost my innocence. You know, it's effectively being molested. But then you have this...
But not grown girls, 6
yeah,
and 7-year-old girls.
They were 7. They were about 2 years older than me and my brother.
How long did that last?
Up until we were like 13. But all the kids in the neighborhood was doing that.
Oh, this is a neighborhood thing. You guys are just hanging out playing and you're doing this.
And we played hide and go get.
What neighborhood was this?
This is in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
30th and Central.
Who's watching over you? Are you living with mom and dad's in prison?
My dad's in prison. My mom, well, my dad had just gotten out of prison, but then he's at work all the time, you know, and trying to hustle a job because it was hard to get a job after that. And then my mother's in school. So, and I didn't know, it felt like it was wrong, but I didn't know
Mom never
that it was wrong. No, I wish they did. I wish they did. I wish I had never done that. I would probably have been a completely different person, but it gave me an skewed view of interaction. I kept thinking that, you know, everybody was promiscuous like that. So by the time I get 16, 17, you know, I've done enough to where I'm starting, now the spiritual side of me is starting to show up, you know, but then I slipped back into it at 25, you know, and for 25 to 30 something, you know, was still trying to be a Jehovah's Witness, but still having this this urge taking place, and the bad things I'd learned from my uncles and all of that influencing me. And it takes you a long time to try and get back to who and what you really, really are. But yeah, that really messed me up. That
Are you kidding me? Like, if I've talked to a lot of different people. No one's ever told me they had more sex between 4 to 13 than you're saying any other.
than I've had in my entire adult life.
Stop.
Because there's no orgasm, until you're about 12, 13. So
and when you're saying sex, you're saying intercourse.
Yeah, we had intercourse. I was having intercourse at 4.
How did that mess you up as an adult later on?
Well, because you think about the innocence of a child and having to deal with those adult circumstances and situations, you're not mentally prepared for it. So now I'm so super protective of my children, of other people's children. I'm like, when we have a friend come and visit and they've got an infant, I'll secure the whole house and put pillows everywhere. I'm just overly protective because I wanted somebody. I'm trying to protect me. My kids are never alone. They are never alone without at least 2 people watching them, just because I don't want what happened to me to ever happen to them.
What a perspective. So if somebody who is not, probably nothing happened to them, so they think automatically everybody is safe. But for you, since it happened to you, you're always paranoid of what could happen.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't, when I was 13, you couldn't trust me with your daughter because I thought the way the interaction was, there's this play that we do, I didn't pull myself fully together until I was about maybe 15. About 15, I started seeing where I could head to, because there was a girl that I wanted to marry, and I loved her. I loved this girl, and she wanted to have sex, and I didn't want to have sex. This was like 14. I just started studying the Bible and really coming around to who I would ultimately become. And she ended up having a train ran on her by my friends, because I didn't want to have sex with her. I didn't know she was a freak. I didn't know that she was trying to be free like this. So it was stuff.
You don't know her reputation?
No, she didn't have a reputation at the time, but she was ready to explore.
So the train had happened or had
No, it happened.
She's thinking about it.
It happened after, because I wouldn't do something with her. So that's what I'm saying. I would have the ones that I loved, I didn't want to touch. The ones that were special, I didn't want to touch. But I was treating other people's child. Yeah, like, oh, well, she's not somebody I want to marry or anything.
Did any father ever find that and come and get you and want to be?
I wish they did.
A brother, nothing?
I wish they did.
Really?
No, because they were brothers.
What would be the number? Like, how many girls would you say from 4 to 13?
Oh, at least 100. At least 100.
From 4 to 13, at least 100.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness!
And you don't want. It's not something that you.
No, I don't. Think
You're sitting there looking at your life like, wow. So that's what made a difference for me when I got older. I didn't want, when I would be next to these people, I knew that feeling of taking that walk. A lot of people didn't explore sexuality enough to where they had an opportunity, to sow their wild oats at that earlier age. But it's how the government has been set up to where the father and the mother are not at home. There's no caretakers taking care of, looking after, the most important part of the family anymore.
At that time when that's going on, would you? I have like 50 questions. Sexually transmitted? Did anybody get anything? Did anything? Nothing. So none of those things happened. Did you witness older men coming in taking advantage of younger girls, or no?
No, but what I did see, there would be some 16-year-olds, messing with younger girls, but that was all normalized inside of the community. It did not. That was just the transaction. That was how we played. I thought it was normal.
And you guys called it a game?
Yeah, let's play hide and go get.
And you're saying that to like 3 girls are with you? You're saying that? Or is it you and your buddies and 3
It's
girls
like
there?
about 8 of us hanging out, and we'd all like hide and go seek, but it was hide and go get, and you would decide pants up or pants down, and I would hate for my child to be doing that this day, and it causes you to forget most of your childhood because you don't want to remember.
About it.
You don't want to remember those things, but those are the things that painted me. With my father being sent off to prison, with my mother trying to have the career instead of taking care of us because she didn't get the career that she wanted.
What did she want to do?
She ended up graduating from college and all that, but she wanted to be an actress. She wanted to be a journalist. She wanted to be all of that stuff. That didn't happen for her. And she lost being able to protect her sons. Because now all my brothers are Jehovah's Witnesses. They've made different choices in their life. But I know that those thoughts still go through their head of the choices that we made when we were younger, and you're just a little more overprotective, a lot more overprotective, about who you are. And I look forward to the next lifetime of not remembering it anymore.
Did you guys ever run into each other? Did you ever run into any of the girls?
No, I haven't been
never.
back to Cleveland.
You've never been back to Cleveland?
I've gone there, but I've gone to
not
see
to
family,
go.
Not walking through.
I can only imagine. Like you ever seen a movie, The Judge, with Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall?
Yeah.
You know how he goes back to the town he grew up in, and he never wanted to go back, and he runs into the girl, his ex, at the bar, and he left. When you go back, you don't see any of these old friends.
No. And that's why I was explaining to my daughters that if I bumped into girls that I had interaction with, I wouldn't even know their face or name.
It's pretty wild.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terrence Howard. I'm an actor, but in the field of science also. So if you would like to connect with me, you can connect with me on Connect. The QR code is down below, and let's have a great conversation.
So your mom inspired you to get into the movie business?
Yeah.
And how did that happen?
Because she wanted to be an actress, and I thought if I became an actor, I would get her affection. Because she doted over my younger brother, Antonio, and wanted him to be an actor. So I thought if I became an actor, she would, I would get that love from her.
What did Antonio end up doing?
He's a contractor now.
He's a contractor.
Yeah, no, it's practicing witness.
Practicing witness.
Yeah, he's
good for him.
He's maintained
good relationship. You guys.
Yeah, we have a great relationship. But
are 11 of you guys all close?
Most of us are.
Great.
We there's a lot of communication, but then the younger ones are kind of getting their own thing out there. I don't have as much in common with my brothers anymore because I'm not a witness, and they're still trying to proselytize in a way. And I'm trying to open their eyes to, let's look at some of the statistics, some of the facts, from the scriptures. If every word is supposed to be the word of God, if you find one mistake in there, then you've got to throw the entire thing out. The entire thing becomes questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm not questioning the divinity of God, but I do question how we've been taught in our belief systems. I think our belief systems, it's time to raise them and take the allegories that we can, but we need to start basing things on actual fact.
So you going into Hollywood, at what age did you get the first job? How did you get into it?
First job I got was on The Cosby Show. I went to Barry Moss's casting agency because my brother Antonio was invited to come in there, and then he couldn't go because he was in Cleveland. I was in New York at the time, and I went in there and I got the job on The Cosby Show.
Is that it, Rob?
That was
Single. Living Single. They cut me out of the show.
Oh, they cut you out of the show. Did they really? Like,
They
there's
cut
no
me
scenes
out.
of you in it?
They cut me out of the show because I was just a friend of Theo. I was playing ping pong and all of that, and I was so hurt by it. And I called my great-grandmother, Minnie Gentry, who was an actress who had been on The Cosby Show. And I asked her, I said, I feel like I need to go talk to Cosby because Cosby had told me that he liked us together. And I hadn't talked to Barry Moss in 3 weeks or whatever. And so I went up to Cosby's room, went to the Kaufman Astoria Queens, Kaufman Astoria Studios, and had made friends with everybody inside of the lobby, So they let me in thinking I was coming in. And I waited outside of Cosby's door, and I said to him, when he showed up, he was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, I'd just love to talk to you for a minute. And he invited me into his room and he said, "So what's on your mind?" I said, "I watched the show last night." And he was like, "Good, good, good." He said, I said, "But they cut me out of it." It was like, "Yeah, it happens. Yeah, it happens." I was like, "But nobody told me that it was going to happen." He's like, "You didn't, your agent should have told you." I was like, "Oh, I don't have an agent." He's like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "But, well, you said that you liked us together and you were going to have me back. I haven't heard anything from anybody." And he took a minute and looked at me. And he was like, "Well, it could happen, but it also can't happen." And I'm like, "Well, what I did is I told everybody at my school that I was going to be on the show. I was in college at Pratt Institute, and I had them come and watch the show, and then I wasn't there, and I was embarrassed." And he said, "Well, in this business, you learn you don't tell somebody you're in something. You let somebody call you and tell you they saw you." And then he said to me, he said, "But that's just how this business is." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm a man just like you. Here's this 19-year-old boy that takes another moment at Disneyland." I said, "I'm a man just like you. I eat, piss, and I crap. But the way you're talking to me feels like I'm an insignificant worm,
You said that.
Yeah, I said it.
And how old are you at?
I'm 19. I'm 19. And I never told anybody about this conversation. And I said, "But if this is how the business is, I don't think I want to be a part of it." And he said, "If that's a choice you got to make." Well, I leave there. And Barry Moss will never take my call again. And then maybe 7 years later, I bump into Malcolm Jamal Warner on a set, and he was like, "Yo, I heard about you having a conversation with Bill Cosby," and I was completely in the wrong. I didn't get disrespectful with him, but I was in the wrong because I needed to have an agent. I didn't need to come in.
So you're taking responsibility.
Oh, I did that. But Cosby. Years later, he called me, and because the rumor had got out there, thinking that I had been blackballed because of Cosby, and he said, "I would love for you to go on the radio and tell them that I didn't do this." And I was like, "I don't know if you did or didn't, but you weren't in the wrong that time." Same thing happened with me and Joe Silver. I'm doing the Brave one. And we're at the Venice Film Festival, and some reporter out of nowhere gaslights me. And he says to me, he's like, "Why isn't your name above the titles with Jody?" And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, why isn't my name above the titles with Jody? So I started making calls as if that was my right. And it wasn't. And then Joe Silver came and had a conversation with me. He's like, "The reason your name isn't above the titles is because you're not the star of this thing. It's Jody. And if you get nominated for an Oscar, it's going to be for supporting actor. It's not going to be for best actor." And I was like, "Okay, thank you for telling me that. Now I understand. But you have to remember, I'm a man just like you. And if you ever talk to me in that way again, I'm going to knock your teeth out your mouth."
You said that.
This is what I said. And then I have to fly back on a private flight with him. And Susan Downey is his producing partner on that. And then maybe 8 months later, I lose Iron Man. And wow. I'm sure that all of those things played their part. But I got gaslit. He did the right thing in coming and talking to me. But I responded in this aggressive manner instead of being cool about and understanding that, you get what's supposed to come to you.
It's a tough thing to admit to, though.
Oh my God.
You're in a business where it's image. It's so you're to take. So what? How could you have done it differently?
Oh,
if you go back?
I would have just let it pass with him asking, shouldn't you be above the titles? Well, if I should be above the titles, I would be. You are where you're supposed to be. Now I understand that. Shouldn't you be with that girl right there? Yeah, if that was my girl, should I wither in despair because a woman be so fair? Is she fair to me? A girl may seem as fine as can be, the most beautiful thing you ever did see, but if she ain't mine, what the F I care how fair she be? That position above the title wasn't mine. I didn't need it.
How important is it in Hollywood? How often do actors say, "Wait a minute, why am I number two? I was number." Is it a very important?
Yeah, well, it shows it's still the classes. I'm above this, I'm below this, and right now, I don't care where I'm at on the call list. I just want to perform the best that I possibly can. I've grown up now, but the mistakes I made back then, oh my God. I'm the one that put myself in the doghouse. Other people didn't do. There was a game. There's a way there's procedures to the game. If you don't follow the procedures, you get out of it. And I did not know how to control my anger at the time. I didn't know how to control my mouth. I kept getting in my own way. When we were doing this movie Boycott, and Jeffrey Wright is sitting there, we're playing chess with each other right before he's got to go in, and I've got my pawns, 3 pawns set up here, but I haven't been able to castle. I'm trying to castle, but I can't get around there, and I've got a bishop that's still blocking blocking me from being able to castle, and he dropped his rook down and checkmated me. And he said, right there is your biggest problem. You won't get out of your own way. He said, the cameraman was watching you, and he's seeing you from this angle, and he looks good like this, and he could do this, that, and the other. But he said, but you won't do it because you won't get out of your own way. And getting out of my way then was I had a gold ring that I was determined to keep on. And I was like, I always wear this. And it's not the character. I was like, but I always wear this, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was in my own way about something that was unimportant. I had forgotten, and you grow up and you listen. When I had a meeting with Denzel once, and he told me, he was like, look at your hands, man. You're always like this. Your fists are all balled up. He said, and all these producers want to do is they're trying to open your hand and so they can put money in it. But you won't do it. You keep your hands all tight like this, and you're blowing it. And this is 20 years ago.
Holy moly.
This
what
is
kind of
20 years
advice? So 20 years ago, were you 20 years ago would be what? 2006, so 20 years ago.
It was right before, it was maybe about 28, 20. It was right before I did Hustle and Flow. It was right before, because I ended up going back into the Chitlin circuit. I was no longer being supported by the studios again. Because I was so aggressive.
How many times did this happen?
At least 8 times. I've had a number of opportunities, and, but my aggression, my need to be a man, you ain't going to talk to me like that, instead of learning how to diffuse and to walk away and to smile, okay, this isn't your day, or this isn't my road right now.
Who plays a role in an actor that obviously is very talented, obviously is an A-lister, obviously it's a guy that can get up there and make the few $100 million? Who typically plays the role of saying, hey, listen, let's pump the brakes? Who's having a tough Was your manager somebody that knew how to manage your toughness?
Didn't. Well, the people that were trying to manage me at the time were Benny Medina and people of that nature, and it's like they have a different agenda. They're walking a different walk, and I wasn't down for that, and I didn't have the ears to listen at the time. I just wasn't there yet. They could have, my parents talked to me, but I'd been beat up so much as a little kid because I was light-skinned with green eyes in a black neighborhood, and they used to slap me and say, watch him turn red, and I had to learn how to fight at 13, 14, and once I learned how to fight, now I'm going to make everybody pay for what's happened to me. And that's what I realized I was doing. I'm just battling. I'm battling shadows from the past. You ain't gonna punk me, And it's like I was punking myself. So that's the hardest thing, to get out of your own way, to recognize, oh, wow, this ain't even about me.
Did you enjoy doing Iron Man?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I loved watching Robert. I've never seen somebody own a set the way that Robert owned that character. He threw it away, cut it in half, throw it away, cut it in half, throw it away. He wasn't trying to be Iron Man. He was Tony Stark. So I enjoyed watching him. I enjoyed watching Jeff Bridges. man.
Jeff Bridges, wow.
You know, we sit up and we played guitar together and talked, and you know, I've been a huge fan of theirs. But I noticed something about both of them. They had learned to rest within themselves, sit at their seat of consciousness, especially Jeff. You know, Jeff, he's like Alan Watts. He's just so full of inspiration and calmness.
Jeff was in Crazy Heart, right? Did he do Crazy Heart?
Yeah,
and the one, and I think in Crazy Heart, Colin Farrell sings the song. Can you verify that, Rob? Can you type in Jeff Bridges and Colin Farrell, Crazy Heart? You're all on blue. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's he falls in love with a young 20-year-old girl or something. She's trying to put him, kind of calm him down. He's another phenomenal actor. So when you did Iron Man with Robert, was that Robert's comeback?
Yeah.
That's when it was like his second chance to come up?
That was his chance. That was his redemption. And he earned it.
Incredible story.
He did what he needed to do, you know, and I can't be angry at him for the other choices. It'll be like being angry at Don Cheadle for accepting the role when he only had an hour to do it. He wasn't going to call me and say, hey, you're not doing this anymore. That's not what happens. You know, it's just, there's a lot of things that I took personally that if you live, like I'm trying to live by the 4 agreements, you know, be impeccable with your word, don't assume anything, don't take anything personal. What's the 4th one, honey? And always do your best. So I'm trying to really apply those in my daily life, you know, and I pretty much, I keep to it. I really try and stick to my word, but that's the thing that I break more than anything with myself, which stops me from being like God, is because I'm not keeping my word. I'm setting the bar too high for myself.
How much of making it in the game of Hollywood is the talent, is the business, is the humility, is the networking, is who represents you? You know, I talked to, I don't know if it was Scottie Pippen or whoever I was talking. I said, what's more important? A superstar? If we want to build a championship team, is a superstar the most important? A strong coach, owners, GM, rank them, put them in order. And it was kind of going through it. What does it take for somebody to make it and stay up there for 10, 20 years?
First, you have to have thick skin. You can't take things personally. You've got to be able to walk away, you know, from your own emotions or your own feelings about something. You cannot take anything personal because they're just trying to make the production. And then the truth is, all you are is a piece of talent. So then the humility comes in there and you recognize your position in this. Like I was doing a film with Shia LaBeouf and Robert Redford. And
this is recently?
This is about 7 years ago. And Shia, I remember him running to hit his mark. And after they yell cut, he would go right back to number 1 and wait there quietly. And this is him after, you know, all of his success, but he always went back to number 1 so that the AD can get everything organized. I learned to do that, to go back to your place. So the humility, the not taking anything personal, but you have to have the talent. You have to have life experiences so you can tell those stories. If you don't have those, then it's just going to be a dull mirror that you will never see the proper reflection to. And then the final thing, if it's 4 things, the belief in self. Because you can have the talent, you can have the opportunity, you can have the humility, you can have the understanding, but if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be clearly seen on the screen.
Shia LaBeouf also, he also had a complicated upbringing with his father as well. Didn't he do a movie that they put it on Amazon and
Sonny Boy, I think.
What was it called? Not Sonny Boy. It's something else. It's Honey Boy. Honey Boy.
Yeah.
Honey Boy, I think is. Can you type it? I want to say correctly. Is it Honey Boy? Yeah, it's Honey Boy. And, there's a clip of him putting the video in front of his dad. I think he was saying this to Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, one of the two. And he said, I just want to watch my dad's reaction. He just recently had some issues that came up in the news.
Yeah.
He got into a fight. I don't know what happened with him. Another one of those guys.
Feel anger. We all come in here for a reason, and we've got something to deal with, and it's like it keeps popping up.
But is it almost like, in comedy?
PTSD.
Do you benefit in a weirdest way, a weird, tough challenge and upbringing for you to be able to tap into those emotions when the camera's on?
You need it. But we're all damaged goods, every single one of us.
In your
every, or you can be a trained actor and they don't have life experiences. But you resonate when you can see, oh, wait a minute, this is touching on something real.
Are there any great, GOAT actors that didn't have they're just trained actors that didn't have a lot to tap into?
I don't know. They all say they're just trained and not relying on personal experiences.
They say that?
They say that. Most of them don't tell you what they've gone through. But the reality is, I can only draw upon the things that I know. The things that I can go and look into somebody else's life or somebody else's path, but I have to have experienced it enough to where I can now associate myself with it and then tell it honestly. And you have to have gone through the darkness to know what it's like to be afraid of the dark. You can't, if you've all lived a prissy life, you don't understand, you may understand drug addiction. Because a lot of people in privilege end up in that place. But if you've never seen somebody doing coke, you don't know how to do that. You don't even know, even like etiquette. There's Hollywood etiquette. We don't know. You don't know coming into it that if somebody offers you a cigarette, you probably more than likely should go out and have a cigarette with them, even if you don't smoke. It's just in when in Rome, do what the Romans are doing. If they offer you a joint, you sit there and have a joint with them. I didn't know that was a reality that allows people to come into the TP. Let's do these things together. And if it's outside of your warehouse, then you say it's outside of your warehouse. But because I didn't do coke, I didn't do all of those things. And when somebody would pull it out, I would take a little step back with it. I didn't realize that was making me take a step back from them. And a lot of people in this business
took it that way.
Yeah. They're like, oh, you can't trust him.
That's what I'm thinking. When you're telling me you never had any sexual encounters with actresses in the space, they're probably going to talk to each other. He's a little weird. He's a little this. Would that kind of happen? Would you be an outsider, or did you ever see yourself as an outsider?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was always weird.
Did they think you're an outsider?
No.
Did the industry look at you as an outsider?
Yeah, because I didn't participate with all of the stuff that they were doing. Even Jamie Foxx, he took me to, we were hanging out, and these two girls come over. And Jamie's in the room with one of them. I'm in the room with another one. And I'm sitting there for 3 hours playing the guitar for her. So Jamie tells these jokes that I'm over here bringing guitars, and
he's been done for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's like there's something
what are you doing?
happening, but I'm over there because I did all that growing up. I did that, when I was young.
Is that a known thing from 4 to 13? Do they know that on what happened to you? Does Hollywood know what happened to you?
This is the first time I've ever said it.
You've never talked about it.
I'm probably going to get an earful from my wife when I leave here about it. It's. But the reason that I bring it up, because you brought it up, is we have to start protecting our children better. We can't even let our child have our phone anymore because he looks up Nick and Judy from Zootopia, but he wants to see Nick and Judy naked. And he thinks that if he looks it up, it just, because they in Zootopia, they go into this little area and it's everybody is just free and not wearing any clothes.
This is really in the cartoon?
Yeah, in the cartoon, it's like what do you call it?
Porn cartoon?
No, it's not porn cartoon, but it's like you're nudist. It's like inside of the cartoon, there's this nudist colony in there, and it's just animals being natural without any clothes on them.
Is there really a nudist colony in this cartoon?
In the first one, there was this little nudist colony where they're at. So my son goes and looks up Nick and Judy naked, but on the phone, that comes off as pornography. And we're like, he's so upset that we won't let him have our phones anymore because anything can pop up. Anything can pop up. And I just want them to stay innocent just long enough so that they can get their balance. I don't want them to have so many regrets that I have in my life.
Man, there's a pro and a con for having a father. You don't choose your parents, right? God chooses your parents for you. It's just, science. You don't. I wish he was my dad. I wish he was my mom, and vice versa. He chooses the kids for us to parent, and then vice versa. And then, but there's pro and con for them, right? Of growing up, just like for us, you growing up with your father and your mother, and for me, I grew up in my own setting, and then how you manage that, how you maneuver with that. Do you think for you, like last time when you and I spoke, I think we were in Arkansas at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
This was 8 months ago.
Yeah, I was doing Turnbuckle, a film Turnbuckle. Not even 9 months ago. It was maybe November or October.
You're right. It was probably you're right. It was probably November when we spoke. And are you still getting the knock of bigger projects coming your way?
Oh no! After I sued Fox and Disney, you go into the blacklist.
Permanent.
Until there's a new change of everybody inside of there. So you're no longer on their main list of calling because you've broken the cardinal rule, which is you never talk. Even if you're being screwed over, you never talk. You're supposed to keep that quiet and keep working as a good slave. And I didn't do that. I fought about, some injustices that I felt was happening with me. And you realize that the entire system is rigged because they carry so much power. And everybody, either you work for Disney or you want to work for Disney in this business.
Why?
Because Disney...
They own all the big brands, Star Wars and everything.
Yep. So how are you going to hire somebody that Disney is angry at as a producer? And so you still stay within the independent realm, and you're building that
all
stuff.
The way up to Bob Iger, or is it like a
Kathleen
Kennedy type of thing?
It goes all the way up to Dana Walden, to all of them. It's, they have their list, and you want to be on the good side of it. But then you want to have your integrity at the same time. You don't want to just roll over. You want everything to be balanced as much as possible. So the big studios, there's still people that will call and look for me, but now I'm at the point where, I'm writing my books. I'm more so trying to connect with people. I don't want to play a character, even though if something great comes around, I'm there for it in a sense. But I really want to connect with who Terry is right now, and do some healing, some inner healing that I wasn't getting with all the other stuff.
Are you if you never get any big job, are you completely resolved with that?
Oh my God, I've done my best. I've murdered it on the screen.
I agree.
So it's like, do you want to do an impersonation of yourself the rest of your life? If I've done that character before, I don't need to do that anymore. And right now, it's a greater message of, okay, let us start reasoning again. Did the entire thing with science and all of that, and you come with all the stuff you're supposed to come with. You come with the white papers. You come with the patents. You come with prototypes. You come with, new geometry. And to have it obfuscated and ignored, like since we talked on the last show, you don't hear any talks about science anymore. It's all quiet out there. Somebody went in there and they were like, okay, let's silence this conversation. But you can't show me any point where I was debunked on anything. Everything that I've said, they just chose to try and ignore it as much as they can. So my goal is still these life-saving.
Did you ever sit down with Brian Keating or no? Did you guys?
No, Brian, they all hid away. And then if I called Eric Weinstein, He does the same thing. Oh, hey, Terrence, how you doing? But it's like, let's not engage.
Right.
Let's not engage. Me and Dr. Yu, we still talk and move
Really?
things forward. Yeah,
Okay.
I ended up doing the Tesla Tech conference and
Did you link up with the Space Force commander, or did you guys?
no.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but no. This is Tesla Tech, the
Got it.
actual Tesla guy, not Elon Musk or anything like that. Not associated with that, but it introduced the understanding that our universe must be finite in order for us to have conservation of energy laws, which completely destroys all of their foundations because most of their constants are based on the assumption of infinity, of an infinite space, but in an infinite domain to spread a minute amount or a conserved amount of energy across an infinite domain, you break conservation of energy laws. The universe has to be bounded in order to have recursion or to have the echo. It's got to hit a wall in order for it to come back. The expanding waves hit the edge of our universe, and the returning waves hit newly expanding waves, and that's when you get your first geometry. So being able to prove that led to the next steps of, okay, here's the collapse of the constants now. Let's take apart Planck. Let's take apart the fine structure constant. Let's take apart all of these things that they're holding everything up with. So I'm still in the process of moving that, and that's still the most important thing in my life because there's life-saving things associated with it. And especially when you look upon where the world is right now. I mean, how do you feel about everything that's happening with Iran right now? Giving your roots from it. I'm so happy that China came in and said, hey, you guys aren't going to bully them completely like you've been doing before. And as a result, what did Saudi Arabia do? Now Saudi Arabia is no longer selling using U.S. dollars, for their petrol. The U.S. dollar is done now. We've just lost in the 12 months. We've lost 9% of our purchasing power. So if you had $100,000 last year, you only have $91,000 now, and it's steadily declining. 25 countries have jumped onto the BRICS, apart from those other 5 countries. We've got 39% of our world of the finances now no longer being dependent. Only 51% of the world is still using U.S. dollars. And as the dollar crashes, because Trump has a plan, and his plan is if you weaken the dollar, then you can bring manufacturing jobs back over here. But that doesn't work with the tariffs that are being hit outside the world. Canada, we've just imposed a thing on Canada to where they're not able to use the chip system anymore. They're not able to use U.S. dollars anymore. So what did Canada do? What did Carney do? He sat up and said, okay, I'm going to go and work with Beijing. But on top of it, I'm going to ask for the war chest from NATO. I want $12 billion because I've got to deal with an aggressive America. And then on top of it, Canada said, you know what we're going to do? The 12 states that we give electricity to, every tariff you put on us, we're going to put on the electricity that we were sending down to them. And on top of it, we're not going to give you any of our minerals anymore. We're in a tight little bottleneck that something has to go, and our U.S. dollar, the COMEX, I don't know if you follow silver, what's happening with silver.
Skyrocketed, gold, record-breaking numbers.
All of that. And silver's been suppressed, artificially suppressed for the last 50 years. J.P. Morgan just had to pay $920 million in fines for the suppression of the silver market because of the paper contracts. And now we have a different pricing for paper contracts of silver for futures here in comparison to actual silver in Shanghai. There's there used to be an arbitrage. You buy silver here, for whatever amount, even if it's $71 here, and then you go over to China and you sell it, for the $88 that would have marked over there. And well, now that arbitrage, they're not playing with that anymore because there's no silver in the COMEX. And we use over 1.2 million ounces of silver in all of our electronics. And we use 20 20 grams of it in solar panels, 50 grams of it in every electric vehicle, in every computer component. And there's only 851 million ounces being produced a year. And most of our silver is coming from byproducts from gold mines, from lead, from zinc, from copper mines. We only get about 20% of our silver from actual silver mines. And China is hoarding it. And out of nowhere, J.P. Morgan, who has been fighting against silver all this time, now they got 750 million ounces of silver. And it's necessary for all of our electronics. So silver has the potential now to go up to being worth thousands of dollars. It will become more even with gold. I think it's like 30 to 1 now, or sometimes it's at 50 to 1. Now it's going to get up to about 13 to 1. So, and typically when the precious metals go up, the stocks are going down. But for a minute, they had the stocks and the precious metals going up at the same time.
Well, I think gold was suppressed for a while because the typical triggers of printing money, all that money we printed during COVID didn't cause gold to move as much. So gold eventually caught up. I think it's needed to be at 5,000 for a while. I think the 5,000 was inevitable. Now the question is, how much higher can it go?
The more the U.S. dollar weakens, because the U.S. bonds, China just sold $864 billion of its U.S. debt. Japan is selling its U.S. debt. Nobody's buying the bonds, so the yield rate is going to change. And and precious metals is the only thing you can trust now. So silver.
What's your position with Bitcoin? Where are you at with
Bitcoin is going to die. I don't mess with it.
You think Bitcoin is going to die?
Oh.
You touch nothing with crypto?
I don't touch it.
Tell me why you think it's going to.
Well, I just got a call from somebody a couple of days ago and said, "Hey, if you got 25 million, you can make 75,000. I just want to put it inside of an account to do some stuff." And this is a friend of mine, and I was like, "Do you realize that Bitcoin is still based on fiat? It's still and because the dollar is decreasing in its value, because the uncertainty of war around." Nobody wants their money in something that can be wiped out with a push of a button somewhere. I've stayed free and clear of it because it's been dropping a great deal. I think it's at $61,000 now.
Yeah, but it went from 18 to 40 to 60 to 125, and it typically goes through the process. If you do a 5-year, if you go to and by the way, I have less than 1% of my portfolio in Bitcoin, so it's not like I'm a pro-Bitcoin guy that's saying this to you. Go to Max, Rob. Go to Max if you look at it. If you look at what the second one looks like as the first one, do you see that?
Yeah.
It looks like a twin.
Yep.
So that means we got, we may be either at the bottom or it could go a little bit lower. But again, patterns change, but we'll see what happened with that. What concerns you the most? You were saying all these things. My challenge is if all these years, these presidents did everything to strengthen China. Nixon opened it up, and China went from being nobody to they were worried because Soviet Union was too powerful and they could catch up. So they gave power to China. They opened it up because they wanted China to beat Russia. Well, then China didn't just beat Russia and passed up and became number 2, and now it could potentially compete with us, right?
Oh,
so the number one creator of commerce for these countries has been us. Why? America's been sold by a lot of presidents to other countries. So finally you got a guy that comes in that's like, I don't know if I like these deals. All these deals favor more the other countries than us. But to be able to put the deals in place is a very hard thing to do and to be able to pull off. He's trying to do it all of it at the same time. There's a 90% chance it's not going to work.
No. Well,
but the 10%, if it does, it protects you and Americans long term. Do you believe that way or no?
Well, his ideals and approach would have worked 40 years ago when you had the dollar dependency that every other country, if you wanted to trade something, you had to have US dollars. So it kept our economy stable and strong. We could print as much money as we wanted to because we can always borrow money at very low rates because everybody wanted to do business with us. But now that the US dollar has lost, it's turning into the sterling pound. For 100 years, that was the money thing. But now we can't push the things or use the force that we were using 40, 50 years ago because the dollar is no longer necessary in the world. So we have to take a more diplomatic approach to doing things. I appreciated the strength by which he came out and was like, hey, NATO, you got to pay your fair share. Hey, Canada, you've been taking advantage of us for years, with these trade agreements. China, you're doing the same thing. But we don't have the staying power that we had before. It's a global economy now. So when a major portion of that global economy is being blocked up with trade embargoes and tariffs and all of that, when everybody is talking, now China is like, okay, great. Keep playing your game. I'm going to keep the Belt and Initiative going out there. I'm going to keep giving to these countries that you're turning your back on. I'm going to keep giving to them. I'm going to and not ask them to change their constitution. I'm not going to force them into anything. I'm going to keep things as good as possible with them. China's doing the smart move. Because now all of these countries is turning on the U.S. and turning to China. Hey, China, you support us now. Even Greenland, wants to have talks with China. So we have to change our tactics and get back to making friends and being partners on the world stage, and instead of isolation, because the isolation, I love the strength in him, but there's a time for finesse and there's a time for brute force. And what happened in the Straits of Hormuz? Is that right?
Yep.
Here we're about to pounce on Iran because of Israel not wanting to maintain our power there. But what happens? Well, now China sends its little boat, its ships in there. Russia sends their ships in there, and there's a standoff.
What do you think is going to end up happening?
The U.S. knows that we cannot strike Iran without those ships, all of them being wiped out and starting this world war. There's going to have to be a de-escalation of that because Iran is no longer just an isolated country without anyone helping it. Now it has the support of our two biggest rivals. And it has the support of everyone that an enemy of my friend, an enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they're all turning to Russia, like Burkina Faso turned to Russia, to ask for its help. Because why? The colonialists are still trying to move the stuff that they were doing before against Ibrahim Traore, President Traore, who was trying to unify Africa and saying, you know what, you're not going to take my gold and process it in Canada and then take it over and put it in the vaults in France. No, this is the gold that belongs to my people. And they're going to make a stand for their position and their gold. So what does Russia do? Since the U.S. is supporting France in this move, Russia goes and makes alliances with President Ibrahim Traore. Now that the war has just started and pushed off, I look forward to seeing how Russia follows through with supporting that. But I'm like, the African nations are all supposed to gather together, but we are so used to being colonialized, looking down at the ground and, okay, here comes the Europeans. We've got to, it's like, no, they've been taking advantage of Africa because in order for the rest of the world to remain fluid, they need to be able to buy cheap and raw materials from Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa has to maintain and have to be impoverished. And then they use all of their things of, we're going to give you some money, but that money is only to keep them in that impoverished state and keep regimes in place that's going to allow the continent to continue to be raped. But if any moment Africa stands up and demands a fair place on the stage, then the rest of the world economy is going to completely crash. And France is not allowing that. They tried to get Niger involved, and come in battle. And they tried to get Benin Toga involved to come in. Some of the soldiers in Benin was like, no, I'm not going to attack my brother. But then other soldiers do. So the world is in an unsafe place. What we did in Venezuela.
What'd you think about that? Because that was a pretty surgical
yeah, it's very surgical,
that
but
they had. It didn't turn into the chaotic. And his answer was more the Monroe Doctrine. Let's protect the Western Hemisphere, the Monroe Doctrine, making sure we're good, we're safe. And America became America because we have a history of being an expansionist nation where, hey, we'll buy Florida for $4 or $5 million. Hey, we'll buy, Texas. We'll buy Louisiana. We'll buy Alaska. We'll fight for California and Arizona. We'll take, and now they're talking about, Cuba, and they're talking about, and by the way, I don't know if you saw that or not, but Panama came out with the backing of U.S. Panama came out and says, hey, China,
you're done.
You're done. That's not a bad thing, because if China, I had Christine Oman this week, and I said, now that we know the virus was leaked out of China, right? And they could have done something about it. For many years, they're like, no, you can't say that. It didn't come from China. It came from somewhere else. Well, now we know it came from the Wuhan lab. It's the Wuhan lab. And they could have closed the airports down earlier. You don't think they intentionally did that to leave it open? 7 million people died. The world economy lost $16 trillion. China's not been held accountable yet. You think China's a trusted player?
China didn't work by itself with that. The U.S. was involved with that.
Who was it that was involved from
everybody
the US?
Was.
Not everybody. Who was everybody?
I think a lot of the countries that were complicit with it, the ones that immediately were like, okay, we're going to go into this lockdown. Mm-hmm. We're going to force this vaccination on everyone. That was a coordinated effort. That didn't happen. Hey, I think you should do this to your citizens.
But I think that was also some of the globalists and some of the establishment folks. There's a play right now. It's not the Republican and the Democrat thing.
No.
It's the globalists that want to make the whole thing a one world, a whole new world, the new world order, whatever they're calling it. And by the way, the World Economic Forum CEO just stepped down, I think, 10 minutes before you and I started speaking, because he had ties to Epstein that just came out? Mm-hmm. Go up to the top, Rob. Let me see the title of the article. Go all the way to the top. What does it say? This World Economic Forum CEO quits after Epstein links examined NVIDIA results failed to wow markets as it happened. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now. And he's got a tough job. I think he's got a very tough job. He looked like he was pretty loose, happy at State of the Union. I thought he was going to be intense. He came in, he did his thing for an hour and 48 minutes at 79 years old.
Yeah.
About to be 80 years old. And he just lost the tariff ruling. That's a big defeat. It's a public loss. And listen, America's crushing it.
Yeah.
America's doing great.
He's the Don. He is Teflon Don.
You ever met him? Have you guys ever?
Yeah, he's Teflon Don. And I love his bravado, and I love the strength that he pushes out. I supported a lot of the things that he was doing. And I was never a Democrat in that support, but I've never voted, because I didn't want to be responsible.
You've never voted?
No, I didn't want to be responsible for what other people. When you give a vote to someone, whatever they do, you have a hand in it. And I was not supporting everything that was taking place, but I didn't think that the Democrats was running the country in a proper way. But there's room for improvement now within this administration. And that's why I'm saying we should start using a little more tact, because nobody's threatened anymore by the threats. Doesn't do anything but causes the other nations to run to the enemy.
You have any desire of politics? Does that at all do anything for you? I can't see you, because to me, you give me the vibes of
I'm honest,
Yeah.
or I try to be honest, and that doesn't work in politics.
Yeah. It's there's a showmanship element to it, right? There's an
Yeah.
element of, how you shine on the big screen.
But doing that every day, I can do it for a few hours on stage, but then I go outside and I'm a regular person. I don't run with the bodyguard, even though at times when I was doing the science, I felt like I needed to because I kept getting hit by all of these.
So you said you met, first time you met Trump was?
I met Trump when I was doing, I think it was, I don't know if it was Jimmy Fallon or David Kimmel. And I was ready to go and do my thing. And then they were like, oh, we're going to pull you because, Trump is here, And so we passed by each other in the hall, said hello, But I did support him in the biggest way.
Publicly or
privately?
Did you get in trouble for that or no? Did
No.
they give you a hard time?
Everybody, you support who you want to support. I did support a lot of his policies.
Were people in Hollywood, like from the outside, it looks like 90% is, on one side politically. Are there a lot of conservatives that are in the business that just kind of keep it to themselves?
Yeah, I think so.
Are there some names that are massive names that if we knew they were conservative, you'd be shocked or not really?
Yeah, I think a lot more people, the older you get, you start off liberal, but the older you get, you become more and more conservative because you realize that you have to be very careful with the steps you're taking more than anything else.
I fully agree.
Because he is the president of our country, you have to be supportive and be respectful of him. Even if you don't like his policies, even if you don't like his personality. I was told when I was studying to be a witness, it said, are you supposed to listen to the elders? If you saw an elder that slapped another member of the congregation, would you listen to his advice? If that same elder lied openly, would you listen to his advice? And he said, if that same elder denied, your Jehovah, would you still listen to him? And I was like, no, you don't listen to him anymore. And the brother said to me, he said, well, that same person was Peter. He didn't just slap another member. He cut off the ear of someone. He didn't just lie on anyone. He lied about, the Savior. As long as somebody is in the position of authority that they've been granted, you still listen and follow the authority and respect that position. But you do it with a full conscience, with an understanding, to become president twice, the way he's done it, 45th and 47th, he has earned the respect. He is still the most powerful person on the planet. And I really dig his dance, but I think there's times where you can use finesse. He's charming. You can use finesse to accomplish so much more because you don't have to use all the power that you've got.
Do you feel like his second term, he's a little bit more calmer than
he's
the
a lot
first
more
term?
calm. He's a lot more calm.
First term, it was like a fight. Every day it was a fight.
Well, they were trying to impeach him every single day. So we put the president into this PTSD mode.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's always trying to defend that. And I don't think anyone becomes president of this country so that they can tear apart the country. They're really trying to unite the country, like even with what ICE is doing. They could do it in a more diplomatic way. They can do it, ICE. Yeah, they can do it in a more respectful means. You do not, if you use aggression, then you're going to start a revolution. If you keep pushing with aggression, revolution ends up coming out of it. But if you use diplomacy, if you use reasoning, if you use understanding, then people can align to your cause. That was one of the things Nelson Mandela did. He was like, yeah, I can get up there and become emotional, and talk about all these terrible atrocities that's happened in an emotional way. He said, but then I'll just look at angry and emotional. He said, you have to reason with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think our government needs to take that stance because we don't have the power of the dollar that we once had, where we could have our way with other countries. And I don't know if we can survive being an isolated, country at present.
California, would you ever consider leaving California or no? Living
Well,
in New
now that they've enacted this new rule,
wealth tax,
yeah,
about,
$1 billion, and you can make your first $1 billion, but anything over $1 billion, 55%, the first 100 million, but then anything after that, it's a 5% tax. It's a weird thing.
Who thinks that's a good idea? Who thinks that's a good idea?
Nobody.
They already lost $1 trillion. This is the second time California lost $1 trillion.
Yeah, they're about to do it again.
Well, they did it already. They lost $1 trillion in the last 6 months.
Yeah, and they're going to now impose this new tax, this wealth tax. It's going to chase all the businesses out of California. And Governor Newsom, he's trying to fight against it. It's not something that he wants to put in place because he saw what happened the last time they pulled that. But I think there's a particular reason. I think somebody else is trying to get the power and the money out of California so they can move in it. I don't know. But it seems very coordinated. It doesn't seem like something that's just happening out of a whim. You don't chase away the money. You don't chase away money.
When he's doing the gerrymandering in California, now the Congress is going to be 48-4, Democrat to Republican.
Yeah.
Even if a governor wins and he's a Republican, you can't do nothing. You can't get nothing to be.
No.
Congress is not going to be on your side. Like, what do you think you're going to pass? Nothing if you become a governor there in the state of California. So have you reached the tipping point where you guys talk about leaving and living elsewhere or not yet?
We're thinking about leaving the U.S. because the U.S. isn't necessarily safe and welcoming right now. You try and think about, okay, where can I live? Well, I definitely want to live in a place where they don't have a military base. Because what? Because of the escalation and the conflicts around the world, and now the U.S., the homeland can be hit. Well, you can't be in Hawaii because Hawaii, they have
Military
budget
base
everywhere.
Yep.
You can't be in California. You can't be in Florida. You can't be in all of these places that are easily accessible.
But not Florida. What do you consider Florida?
It's just open. I love Florida, but the waters are
Let
open.
me take you, Terrence. You would love the restaurants in Miami. I can see you guys in Miami or Palm Beach or
man,
they're moving here and they're making it safer here.
But you can't make it safe for ballistic weapons, missiles. You want
Where
someplace
would you
that's
go outside the U.S. that you?
Iceland. Iceland is a
I
beautiful.
thought you were going to say Costa Rica. I thought you were going to say like a
Oh.
low-key, quiet, no military state.
Iceland
you
is
know.
no military. Iceland is.
You could live in Iceland?
Oh yeah, we've been a couple times and we love it. But we want a place that's that's non-confrontational. That's what you ultimately want. You want a place where your kids can grow. Because I've got 2 kids on the spectrum, and I worry about how people are. I need to be in a place where, you have your water, you have the thermal, the heat there. The dollar cash is going to disappear. I think that's one of the biggest things that's hurting humanity, is this indirect form of exchange, that's messed up the natural interaction. When people bartered, there was a good exchange. Nobody felt like they were being taken or anything like that. I think ultimately, as we become more conscious, we will get to a place like that.
How close are you to making a decision to leave the state, the country? Are you guys, is that close or is it still in the talks?
I mean, we may move to Korea, but then that's a big spot because she's Korean, but you have what's happening with North Korea, and all the military bases in Korea. I just want to move to a place, even if it's New Zealand, so a place with no conflict. I've fought enough in my life. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want.
Where do you feel the most at peace? What city? What area?
Hmm. Dag, I don't know. I don't know but there was a great deal of peace, even when I was in Prague in the Czech Republic at other times, not that first
That
time.
first time, it's a little bit. There's a lot of beating around going on with ice and stuff.
Beating around the bush. But I
If
did.
somebody just watches the clip by itself, they have to go watch the whole podcast because you will not know what reference we're talking about. Shout out to Czechoslovakia. My first girlfriend was from Czechoslovakia in Germany at 11 years old. Her name was Katarina Staff. First girl ever was Katarina Staff.
Yeah.
Her and her brother were good friends of mine.
Yeah, I fell in love a few times over there.
They produce good products over there.
Yeah.
Very.
But the historicity of the city, I mean, to even going over the Charles Bridge and you look at all of the different statues that's been, and this is 600 years old.
Prague. Is that a pot? Like,
Prague.
would you consider Prague?
Yeah. Prague, I love that place.
All right.
I love that place. Prague is
interesting. Yeah, to me, like I'll go to a place and I'll say, okay, how do I feel? I want to get the vibe, and also depends what phase of your life you're in. Like, if you're selling a company and tension, it's high. You're like, you may have bad memories of the place, but if you go to a certain place and you just can put your feet up, relax, enjoy, go eat good food. Any city I go to, Terrence, if the food isn't good, I'm not happy. I want good food. I want really good food, entertain, go enjoy yourself. But yeah, I think you may want to put Florida on that list. You may want to consider Florida. Florida will treat you well. She looks like she's okay with Florida as well.
We've talked about it. The tax incentives here is a beautiful package. But when this place is when we have these many conflicts taking place, with Cuba right now, if something does happen, I think Florida would be one of the first places that they hit. So I'm just thinking about where can I be where my family will be safe in the political.
No matter where you go, there's going to be something, and you got to pick and choose which one you want to talk about or which one you want to pick. Last time we were together, I don't know how Diddy conversation came up. That went everywhere. You remember that when we talked about the Diddy conversation where I think he wants to, I
think he's trying to get out of there.
And then afterwards, he obviously went to prison, court, all that stuff has been done. And I don't know if you had a chance to watch the 50 Cent documentary.
Yeah, I saw it.
What'd you think about it?
50 went in. He went all the way in. But it's like when you start judging people for the choices that they've made, you don't know the conditions and the circumstances that they were put under. Like I think about those girls that did that to me when I was 4. Where did they learn it from? Who did what to them that made them think it was normal to carry this thing out? I think that a lot of us get caught up in habits that was passed down to us that aren't necessarily innate from us, but they get passed on to us. So I've got to look at him, with compassion, because you got to remember he's still us. You look in his eyes, it's the same light of God that's shining back. It's just another wave of the universe looking at it.
Come on,
Diddy. Even Epstein, all of them. What one human being does, all human beings are doing. Because we're just really, what happens in the sea over here, we don't say this wave just crashed.
Interesting thing to say. If one human being does, so meaning someone taught Epstein, someone taught Diddy. When I had Suge Knight on, Suge Knight said, who did he say, Rob, that taught Diddy? He gave a name. Quincy? No, was it Quincy? Clive Davis. Yeah, he said Clive Davis.
Clive Davis.
Yeah, he talked about that, what Clive did early on. And then so probably somebody taught Clive, and this thing keeps... Did you hear any stories about Epstein in Hollywood, or he wasn't a Hollywood
No,
guy?
I mean, not... Hell, when I would hear about Chris Tucker and people hopping on the plane to go there, I didn't know that Epstein was, the bad guy that he is now. But I was like, damn, I would love to go. I didn't know. what was happening.
No one talked about Epstein.
No, nobody.
Harvey, they did, but not Epstein.
They didn't talk about Epstein. I didn't know. But hell, I could have easily ended up over there if he had invited me over there, because you think, okay, I'm going with the Hollywood move. That's how you get there. Like I wasn't invited to the Puffy parties. I wasn't invited to any of those things. So there's a part of me that's so grateful that I wasn't invited. But back then I felt excluded. Back then I felt like, oh, I must be doing something wrong. You know, I wish I had participated in some of the druggery, you know, and then wouldn't have alienated people that were good friends that could have been good friends, you know, because I still ended up participating in the druggery when I got older. But at the time, I just didn't want to do it because, you know, I had these other things that were pressing upon me. Now, I didn't get stuck into druggery, you know, but yeah, it would have been nice to take some walks. You know, when I look back, you know, in my 30s.
Could have ended nasty.
It could have ended nasty.
So the fact that you didn't is probably a better thing.
So the universe places you, you can't really regret anything, you know, but there's still parts of me that's like, wow, I dodged a bullet with Epstein. I dodged a bullet because I wasn't invited to those places, you know, but at the time I didn't see it. I heard Denzel say once how he used to be so upset about Kevin Spacey, you know. Kevin Spacey was getting everything, had all these beautiful opportunities that even him, after everything he had done, he wasn't getting what he needed. But I remember him saying, I wouldn't want to be Kevin Spacey now.
So he was upset that Kevin was getting the opportunities?
Yeah, I'm sure he used to really want, because Kevin got a lot of great challenging stuff. And it was just, and I'm not completely sure of the full context, but hearing him say that, hearing that statement, and it was something he said in an interview that made me rethink, yeah, I'm so glad that I didn't have those opportunities that I thought I needed or wanted at the time.
Denzel seems like he had influence over you in your career.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Honorable man?
Yeah, he gave me some other advice once. I did this table read, and I got loud, and then he took me outside. He said, listen, say you're walking down an alley, dark alley, and there's somebody at the end of the alley talking about, I'm going to kill you, you mother ever, I'm going to kill you, da, 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 da. And, you know, he may be serious, but he said, how afraid of him are you? He's all the way at the end of the alley. He said, but if someone comes up to you and they say, I'm going to cut your throat, which one are you more afraid of? The one yelling or the one whispering? And so it made me stop being obnoxious in my acting.
Wow.
You know?
What a powerful advice to give. Sometimes the lowest tone can be scarier than you having to scream.
That's the power. God whispers. God never yells.
You know, we did this whole conversation today, and we haven't even talked about all this other stuff. So first one was all about God, but this was a phenomenal conversation. See, if you were in Florida, we would do this more often. Okay, I'm going to keep selling Florida to you.
But you did great. You did great. I mean, the last hotel, Marriott, that wasn't, you didn't know, but the Four Seasons, this entire trip, yeah.
Where are you staying at? Where are you staying at?
Over at the Four Seasons now, man. And you did.
Awesome.
It's a beautiful place. So thank you for taking care of me.
Anytime. No, anytime.
You know, and bringing me back here. You know, I didn't know what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, you know, I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? And even when we started, you said some things, and I took the notes, and I said, I don't know, man. I just want to go a complete different direction. And I'm glad I did, because the conversation was phenomenal. I learned a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I learned a lot of phrases you use. We laughed. We learned history. And by the way, I'm sure a couple of the single guys are watching this. They're going to use that line, Rob.
Storehouse.
Yeah. You know. But anyways.
Empty the storage container.
Empty the storage container. It was wild. And for the folks that are watching, you can always connect Terrence and ask him any questions you have for him. The man's got a wealth of knowledge and experience. Click on a link below. Send him a connect. Terrence, appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
And until next time, take care.
Amen.
My man. Really enjoyed it.
You too. Hi, everyone. My name is Terrence Howard. I'm an actor, but in the field of science also. So if you would like to connect with me, you can connect with me on Connect. The QR code is down below, and let's have a great conversation.